Before we start wiring up the radio, getting the dash kit made and all those fun things, I like to get the factory radio out of the car, just because it's kind of like a bad luck thing. You start on that, you get all wired up and you realize, oh, something's different. It kind of sucks. This way we'll be able to make sure everything is exactly the way it's supposed to be, and we're going to need some of those parts anyways. We need the little wings off of the side of the screen to attach to our new radio mount. To get this right out of the dash, it starts with removing this top part of the center console. Normally there's a little piece of plastic right here that needs to come out in front of the gear shifter. This one doesn't have it. There are two 7mm there, remove them. On the side of the center console located here, and on this side, there are little plastic pieces that need to come off, and there'll be more screws located behind those. They're all 7mm, with the exception of the ones that are not factory, like that one. The side panels have a couple clips and some magnets on them. Just pop those off and the whole thing will come off. It's the same on the other side. When removing the center console, start in the back, put the gear shifter all the way back, and just kind of work your way this way towards the rear of the car. Where it says shaker here, that also needs to come out, and there's going to be more 7mm behind it. Once you've gotten that far, that's good enough for this area. What we need to remove now is this top part of the dash here. Get to the two screws that are located behind it. Normally when removing the dash, these pieces will come with them. However, he's obviously done some modifications to this, and that isn't the case. The screws we need to get to, though, are located behind the gauges that he's put in the car. There are two extra clips located behind this. That would be what would normally come out when you remove this whole gauge cluster, which when they didn't screw it back in, obviously that isn't the case. Now we can continue to get our radio out. Behind this trim panel are two plugs for the air conditioner, one plug for the cigarette lighter, and then the factory USB that is not going to do anything for us. And the whole unit comes out. Other than clean this thing up a little bit, there's nothing we have to do to it. This is the lower control unit here. It has your CD if you have a CD. This is the actual radio. Up top is the control screen. Normally there's a bunch of 7mm here to remove it. Not the case here. Someone's pulled this out. On the back of the top screen is what looks like a USB. It is, but it's not an actual USB per se like you would think. And the big plug that is going to be where our camera plugs into. Reaching up behind, I can get the main unit out. We don't need this for anything. This is done. There's nothing we need off of this. Behind here, inside, closer deep into the bowels of the dash, you'll find two antennas. One that's mustard colored, one that's black. The black is the FM, the mustard color is the Sirius XM. If you're going to be retaining Sirius XM, you need a SAT1 antenna adapter. That'll plug into this and allow you to retain it. It's not all fun and games. We don't just get to throw a new radio in here and everything is great. Unless you're doing a short chassis radio, in which case, yeah. We're not doing that. We're doing a normal depth single DIN back. Means we got some work we need to do. We need to remove this whole piece here out of the way. The easiest way to do that is to cut it along the sides here and here, not along the back. There's wiring harnesses and stuff that are in the way. We found that the best tool to use to do cuts like this is one of these floorboard cutters. Dremel makes a carbide bit that works well for both plastic and metal. One of the nice things about it is it doesn't create a lot of vibration, which is key because you don't want to roll the gauge clusters over. There's no more room behind there to be had. The air conditioner's in the way. We're not going to be doing anything with that. Hopefully we have enough depth. We have put full-size double DIN floating radios in here before, but I do like to worry. And because I'm worried, I'm going to head over to the bench right now and build this kit so that we can get it into the car and test fit it to make sure everything does what it needs to do. The radio we're putting in is the ILX F409. This guy here is a loaded down Alpine radio, has a ton of features. Let's take a look inside and see what they are. When you open the radio, the first thing you'll find is this cardboard box. Inside the cardboard box is your bag of harnesses, your owner's and instruction manual, and then nothing else. Next is this big thing of bubble wrap that doesn't come out all that easy. Warning! This unit will not power up until the power plate is installed. I cannot stress enough, you have to have this little lock in place before this thing will power up. We get a ton of phone calls of people like, dude, it doesn't work, what happened? Did you, what? Big pink thing. It's literally the size of the screen. It's next to the screen and it's underneath the screen. So you can't physically get to the screen without removing this. It has the screw that you need. Putting it in the bottom of the box where the screen goes. Don't need that. I like the fact that they give you this cool little felt fuzzy case thing to hold over this until you're done. And another thing I really like is you see the tab here. Alpine puts clear plastic over all of their screens. Oh, I wish everyone would do this. It's so nice. It just protects the screen until we're done. This mounts exactly the same way as any of their other floating screens. It has a screw here on the side. It has two screws, one on this side, one on the other, and this is what's going to allow this to tilt. Then you have two screws here. That's a total of 4. It allows you to adjust the elevation. When in the car, you have these mounts here that when it comes in, you have to put these screws in, and then the last piece to go over the top is that little locking mechanism. There's 2 beauty panels that click over the sides here to hide all these mechanisms. You don't hop into the car and see this. Until we're ready for it, we can put it back into this. I like to put it in upside down. That way, if it's on the table, you guys know why. Digging deeper into the box, we find the brain unit. This is the main unit. Let's take a little bit closer look at it. If you need to, you can remove these 2 screws here, push this in, it will then occupy these 2, and that'll sink it into the dash some. I can tell you right now, we're not going to need to do that in this car because of the way the dash is shaped. We're going to need as much out as we can. There's also 2 screws on the top. That's a total of 4 that you have to remove in order to sink it into the dash. Looking at the back of the unit, there's 2 cables hanging off. One is your FM, and the other one is your Sirius XM for your SVX 300 tuner module. HDMI in, HDMI out. This has a single USB fan. All these other dedicated plugs that are in this bag, let's take a look. There's 2 bags of screws and they're totally different. The one that has the black screws with the Loctite on it is for attaching the screen to the radio. The one that just has the silver screws in it are to attach the main unit to our dash kit that we're going to be putting in. This piece here is a bracket to lock in the HDMI. I'm going to be honest with you, very rarely does this fit any other HDMI other than Alpine. So this little bag here is the beauty trim that goes on the side of the screen to hide all the mechanism. We have a single little guy here that says iData link. This is important. This is what's going to allow us to use the RR. Comes with one USB connector. The RCAs, the aux jack, and all that are on their own dedicated white cable. Do yourself a favor. If you're not putting amplifiers in the car, still plug this in. This is an expensive piece. There's no reason not to put it in. Don't leave it in the box. Just put it into the car. Zip tie it up. Do whatever you need to do. Trying to get one of these after the fact is a pain in the butt. The main power harness. We'll talk about this once we get to the RR installation. Going back to the back of the radio, the little iData harness is going to attach here in the top right. The RCA harness is going to attach here. It does have a steering wheel control input. If you're doing something other than iData, you can plug that in. Your microphone is located here. They are both the same size, so make sure you read and don't accidentally get them wrong. The main power harness goes here in the corner. Looking at the RCA harness, let's take a moment and kind of go over this particular radio's features that it has. It has 6-channel 4-volt output with a front, rear, and sub, and if you'll notice, they're all staggered, which makes it kind of nice. They don't just have a giant bundle at one spot. It has 1 camera input. The second yellow here is the auxiliary input. If you're doing RR, it's going to tell you to plug your RR input into this, which means that the input here won't be used either. Fortunately, most phones don't use aux jacks anymore. And then the remote EXT here is for if you're doing some form of an overhead. Speaking of RR, for integration, we're going to be using the MFT1 kit along with a regular RR. This kit is really nice. It's designed to work with that factory 4 to 8 inch screen, so you can keep that whole front bezel, all the knobs and controls. We're not replacing it. Makes it really nice. This is what we're going to use to cover the hole and line it up with the 8-inch. There are 4 metal brackets in here, a set of A's and a set of B's, and the instructions that'll tell you what brackets you need out of this, and then you're going to remove the brackets off the factory screen and attach those to these brackets to mount it into place. It comes with the antenna adapter, and then it comes with this hub here, which is really nice. It has HDMI, it has an aux jack, and it has dual USB. On this car, we only have one USB on the radio, so one of these won't be used. For that, we have these little USB covers we just put in place, and that denotes it's not going to work. Depending on what Ford you're going with, it has 2 different size bezels to snap into place where that factory hub was. Bag of screws to attach the metal brackets. There's 3 wiring harnesses in the box. The first one here is the backup camera retention harness. This will attach where the factory screen is. The second harness here is the main radio harness. This will attach to the lower brain box of the radio. The screen and the radio in this are 2 separate pieces. It has RCA's on it if you are integrating into the factory amplifier. If you're not, if you're just say have a base model, you can cut these off and just use the radio power. And then the last harness is to integrate this into the newer Fords. This is the new harness here. This is the old harness. This allows you to just simply plug into this, plug into your new Ford harness, and everything works the way it's supposed to.